Heyo, welcome to whoever's hanging out right now. I'm not going to waste a whole lot of time jumping right into it. We're going to be drawing the Bulbasaur line today. I went and I sketched a couple of them out ahead of time. And that's what we're going to be doing. So whoever's hanging out, say what's up. And I'm just going to hop right into it. Okay, we're going to hop right into it. What's going on? Welcome, welcome. We're going to be going through the Bulbasaur Pokemon line today, and I went early and I sketched all of them out last night so I wouldn't have to sketch them on stream. I already have like an outline and a rough idea for where I want to kind of take them. So whoever's hanging out, say what's up. And let me know if the volumes for something are too high or too low. Do my best to accommodate. Oh, you know what? I can probably fix this real quick too. Hey! Thanks for coming by again, Hunter. I appreciate you, man. Excited for the Pokemon? Sweet! Me too. I I got a little ahead of myself and I went ahead and I started a couple of them last night so that I had like I said, so I have a little bit of a guide for what I want to be working on. So I think what we'll do is we'll do the first 3, which will be like Bulbasaur, Ivysaur, and then Venusaur, and then we'll probably do a couple of like random ones. Like we'll roll a die or we'll go through some random number generators to pull up the next maybe 1 or 2, depending on how much time we have. I'll be here for about 3 hours or so, but we'll see what we can get up to. How you doing? It's only been a couple of days since I streamed last. I was actually excited to pull these back up and get back into it. And what I also want to have open, I put together a really small board. There's not a whole lot on it, like some of the other reference stuff that I've already put together for the project. Just to kind of keep a better mental note of what I'm aiming for and where I'm at. Long day, but chilling. Yeah, well, good. That's what I'm here for. You know, like I said in our first stream, the goal of these streams isn't to be super loud and like wild. It's, you know, hang out with me while I do a little bit of artwork. Listen to me ramble for a little bit. And then as the night goes on, I'm sure we'll have a handful of people kind of pass in and out of the chat. And then we'll see if the allure of drawing Pokemon draws any extra people in than last time, and see how all that goes. I ended up deciding not to do a results post for Aaron this week, is because all of the votes were A. All of them. I think there was only 2 or 3 that ended up not voting for A. It was like the most unanimous decision that I think I've had on the project thus far. So there wasn't really a need to like reveal which one was like voted for in the majority. So tomorrow I'll be putting up a hidden objects post that actually has a YouTube video that I just finished. I have to check it and make sure that there's no final fixes I have to do for it, but tomorrow's hidden object post, I went and I took the time lapse for it and I did a voiceover and some other extra goodies just to kind of walk through my thought process of creating something like that. So I'm excited. I want to start doing those with the like the bonus posts, like with the puzzles and different stuff like that, because they're only like 4 to 5 minutes long and they're not that difficult to voice over. A lot of the work goes into like editing them, but I think the more that I do them, the better and faster I'll get at it, because it's not terribly difficult, just a little time consuming. But I'm excited to show that off tomorrow. Like seeing the work in progress, yeah. And that's what it is. It's literally just me going through and like explaining like kind of what I was thinking at the time or different stuff like that. And again, like the most time consuming part of that wasn't the like the artwork for it. It was like putting together the pieces for that video, and you'll see it tomorrow when I post it. But I'm just like happy with the way that it was looking. I haven't, just as I was getting ready to start streaming it like finished exporting, so I haven't had the chance to sit and look at it just yet. But as far as the Pokemon that I want to be doing, I think what we might do is we'll set up like a day, like each week to hang out and like do a handful of them in a row, and then if we have time, I'll do one or two random ones, um, before we go, like as a send off for the night or whatever. Just so there's like a little bit of order to it when I start uploading them on Instagram, because I don't want to. Well, we'll see. Because I don't want to just do um, a post each time for each individual one. So what I want to do is just upload them in a big batch, like of 10, and kind of go from there. Yeah, but I already started working on, like, I think I have the first 9. So I have all, all 3 evolutions of the first 3 starters. And then I also have a Caterpie already sketched up. But more than likely, we'll probably only get to, um, like, complete the Bulbasaur line for tonight. So we'll see. But the kind of idea that I want to, because like I want to reimagine them. I don't want to just draw them the way that they like always look, I guess. I don't want to do like a hyper realistic look, because I feel like that's been done a little bit too. So I kind of want to do them, kind of like, well, drawn in my style, but with, a couple different twists. I think it would be cool to not zombify them, but kind of give them like a rotted or a more like decayed look. So like specifically with Bulbasaur, because it just has a big plant on its back. Like each of the evolutions has like a big, like rotten, kind of gross looking like bulb, big plant. Sounds cool. Yeah, well, cool. I'm glad you're into it then, because I've been having fun. Like I was working on them last night for like a long time. I couldn't go to sleep because I wanted to just keep getting the sketches done for them. And I'm glad that I kind of did that, so that today I'm able just to kind of hop right into getting them done, as opposed to, because like all of Bulbasaur was really easy to do, and Ivysaur, like this whole line was pretty simple to actually put together, but the Charizard gave me the hardest time. And while I was fiddling with the design last night, I was really glad I was doing it ahead of time, and I'll probably continue to do that if and when I have the time. I'll continue to have them kind of pre-put together, at least sketched out to some degree, so that I don't spend like an hour of my time here, like fiddling with, um, like just getting the sketch in, just getting the pose down. And then one of the things I was noticing while I was kind of going through them is that a lot of, at least the starters, they're all very like reptilian. So I had to make sure to find ways of like distinguishing them. And, like there's definitely like very significant changes, but sometimes their facial structures are very similar. I think a lot of like the first generation is kind of like that too. So as we kind of go through them for however long, hopefully we make it to the end, but it's always possible that there comes a point where it's just not working out, or whatever the case is. But as we kind of continue and we progress through the list of them, um, to kind of make sure that I'm differentiating them, and then every once in a while, like when I was starting to do like Caterpie and Metapod, I was like, man, these are going to be very boring if I just do them as is. So I'm going to try to encourage myself to have enough artistic leniency with them that I can make them cool if I already don't think that they are. And then what I think will start happening um, as we do more streams, and we may end up pushing them back another half hour or so, or we can even leave it here, because I feel like people are just getting off work at 5, and they probably don't start coming through until about 6 o'clock. But even then, there's people in all different kinds of time zones, so it might honestly be better the later that we wait. We'll see how it goes. I don't like being up terribly late anyway, so we'll see how late I can feasibly push it. Because 5 o'clock here is 2 o'clock on the West Coast. So that's probably a bit early for a handful of people, which is completely understandable. And then there's people that aren't native, or not native, but aren't here, aren't in the U.S. Um, and so that their time zones are all over the place, depending on where they're coming from. Yeah, it can be a bit boring. Yeah, exactly. I don't want to get um, stuck with a design that I'm like super not happy with, and then end up like having one or two like bad results out of all of the rest of them. So I'd rather just take that license to change them and not be too concerned about it. See if I can find. put on a different a different set of Pokemon remixes. Hopefully these ones are a little more upbeat. We'll see what happens. It's weird working with people. Yeah, it is. And like I didn't realize because I have a lot of people that interact and like follow and actually support the project on Patreon that are like in Ireland or um, like there's a couple people like in Brazil, which is really cool. It's really flattering to think there's people that are like in a completely different like continent that are like interested in playing along and all that kind of stuff. Um, but then like I realized like when I'm posting at noon, it's probably like 1 a.m. for them, so they don't even get to see the post or comment on it until like it's already been up for 10 or 12 hours, and that's hard to accommodate for because the bulk of my audience is in the U.S., so I do try to cater or think more about that, but I definitely understand the frustration for those people. Hang on. A little more energetic than where we were before. I want it to be relaxed, but I don't want it to put anybody to sleep. And this one we can probably turn off the outline that we have before. Like how messy this bit is here. And if anything, we'll do another like petal, maybe another layer to the bulb. Ooh. Good jam, Danny. Yeah, you know what? Pokemon music is pretty good. It's funny, and my recommendations lately, they keep there's like these like mashes together of different like Pokemon music, and like it's really good. I guess I never like paid attention. I don't know. I played a lot when I was younger, but I've never like really been super super into them like as I've gotten older. Not for any particular reason. I just don't play a lot of video games. Um, I'm not able to. It just doesn't do anything for me, I guess. But I did play. I played a lot of Pokemon when I was just a wee lad. And I primarily played a lot of the earlier generations. Just that's what was there when I was younger. I'm not that old now, but do I have them here? No, but we're gonna go ahead and we'll add the we'll do it on a separate layer actually. So so I can have them be a little more loose and flowy and messy. But I think I'm gonna be enjoying, working on these. Just it's gonna be a nice like break, and I'd like to set up. Um, Maybe Thursdays, maybe we find a better day in the week. But I'd like to set up like a day each week where I can just hang out for a couple hours and like put these together. And I want to be doing more streams more actively. Just I think they're like a cool way to like interact and hang out. I'm gonna be working anyway. I'm gonna be like drawing and working on stuff. The Pokemon aren't necessarily like a large or important part of like the Dire Quest process, but um, I think it'll be like a cool way to draw a couple more people in and be a nice like a design like exercise that's different from what I'm normally doing when designing like medieval stuff or the stuff for like Aaron and those that aspect of the project. Yeah, and you know what, dude? I super appreciate you hanging out. No one else is stopping in just yet. We'll probably have a handful before the night is over. And you know what's funny is the time goes by so fast when I'm like doing these. I don't like think about it. But, like we're already a little over a half an hour in, and so if that's any gauge, that it takes me about um, an hour per outline. Because there's not a whole lot of coloring. I don't do the coloring as much as I used to. Um, but if it takes me about an hour per outline, that kind of lets me know that by the time we get closer to 8 o'clock, we'll be hopefully like nearly done with what we're trying to accomplish for the night, which would be the first three. Come back in and thicken these top bits up a little bit too. There we go. then of course with these ones, as opposed to the like the batch of sketches that we did earlier in the week, there's not um like I'm just drawing like the one thing. I'm not doing like a bunch of different like poses or like ideation. Like I already kind of, like I said, I draw them out earlier so that like I can just kind of hop right into it. And that actually might mean that we get through more of them, which would be good. Because I don't want it to be like a 14-year process of trying to get through them. And then as always, like if we get to a certain point where like there's just not a whole lot of interest and I'm not really feeling it, then you know we move on. But I'd like to be able to run through them. I mean, 150 really isn't that much. I mean, I say that now. I guess we'll find out. Let's try this one out. Yeah, if we're doing three at a time, it won't take terribly long. Um, it's still 50 streams, right? Like if I'm doing three each stream and I'm doing three at a time, unless my math is super wrong, that's still a year. Which I mean, if people are interested and people want to, you know, want that, I don't mind, you know, stretching it out like that. You know, if enough interest or if it picks up enough steam, like I could see doing like a bunch in a day, just like running through them. Um, because like I said, like I spent a couple hours last night just sketching them out real quick. But you know, if the interest exists to spend all day like on a Saturday or a Sunday or something, just drawing like Pokemon after Pokemon, like you know, I'm game. I'm there for it. I'll have to kind of gauge that as we go. And like realistically, Bulbasaur doesn't have terribly too much more that he's gonna need. Can beef out some of these outlines a little bit, make them stand out. What I really like and what I'm excited about is all of the final evolutions. I think I did like a really cool job with them, and I'm excited to get to put them together. And I'll end up, you know, probably making like a joint post with the three of them all back to back or something to that effect. beef this back leg just a little bit more. And let's see if it won't let me just wrap around him. And go back in and clean them up, get rid of some of these guys. But I think that's the outline. I think we already blew through Bulbasaur. Our first on the list has been knocked off. That was quick. I was under an hour. 44. I'm not racing to get them done, but I do want to try and get them done relatively fast. But to be fair, this guy has a pretty simple design going on too. He's not terribly complex. And then I'll come back in and I'll clean him up a little bit. That way he's not too it's not too messy looking. Although Instagram shrinks these down so far that it almost doesn't matter if there's little like white spots that kind of peek through. You don't really see them after the image gets so compressed. They're not really there anymore. Part of me wants to give him a little tail, just because I feel like he looks kind of funky because he doesn't have a tail. Can also, I think he's funky looking with no tail. What happens if we change that just a little bit? Shape of his butt. No, I kind of like the shape of his butt like that. We'll reshape his back a little bit. I'm gonna try to give him a tail and we'll see what happens. What do you think? You think tail or no tail? Because I feel like it only makes sense for like a creature kind of looking like this to have a tail on him. I kind of like the tail. Let's see if I flick it on and off real quick. Where's the... You like it? Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll probably end up keeping it. what I'll do is I'll save it separately so that if I have to rip it off later, we can just rip it off later. But it's just simple. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. I think what I'll do, yeah, it kind of balances them out. I think he looks funky with no tail. We'll come over here and we're gonna kind of, oops, not that. We're also gonna pull his bulb back a little bit so it's not so far forward, because the perspective's a little bit off right now. It gives it, yeah, gives it balance. Let's see if I can't also help the, oh, I see. This is all looking a little bit messy up at the top right now, but I promise it'll look right. I just gotta clean it up a little bit. Let's get rid of that one. Well, that don't look right. Right now I'm trying to find like a nice like silhouette for the top of the bulb so that it looks a little like better in terms of the perspective, because the way I had it before, it was tilting too far forward when it should be kind of leaning back more. So we shouldn't see so much of the like the opening. We should see less of the opening. It's also kind of messy in terms of the line work, because they have the like vines that kind of are springing out of it. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of them. I'm going to throw them back in a way that will be more conducive to the outline that I'm looking for. a lot of the similar like thought processes go into play for Aaron's stuff too. So whenever I work for like Aaron or even the new adventure for the patrons, um, I have a lot of the same like ideas and like concepts I try to keep in mind while I like put the artwork together. Okay, and we're gonna just do a little bit of like grass and stuff on the ground. So you're digging it? Good, good, good. I'm glad. This is kind of the vibe that I want to do for the rest of them, and then like the Pokemon evolutions tend to have a way of having like each evolution getting like angrier or more like sinister, I guess, more aggressive. So like the next two that we're gonna do are also gonna like follow in that way where they get a little more like if we're gonna follow the like decaying like gross kind of aspect of it, I guess, like rotted, I guess would be a good word for it. If we're gonna follow that um for like the rest of the Pokemon that we're gonna do, um they get to be a little more like spooky looking. Right, I'll just go and add some color to these guys. And then I'm just adding the stuff here like at the bottom just to kind of better like uh, plant him like in the environment, just so it's not just like a bunch of red in the background. There's a little bit more like ground beneath him, even if it's a little bit more implied than like doing like a full-on like background or whatever the case is. And come in with a smaller brush. And kind of make it a little bit messy. go. Cool. At just under an hour, we have a Bulbasaur done. Cool. The Pokeball that we have in this top left here is not final. It's probably it's probably a design that's closer to where it'll end up being, but we'll probably clean and polish that up before I go to post them. Whenever we have enough that I feel comfortable, like posting like a large batch. I might even just do it like 2, 3, maybe 4 at a time. We'll see. All right, with Bulbasaur done, we're gonna go ahead and keep it moving. Now we got Ivysaur. Let me go through and update our. Up next will now be Venusaur. And then now we're gonna work on Ivysaur. You better align those so they're not so crooked. There we go. That should work a little bit better. Yeah, that'll do. Cool. Alright, wasting no time. Up on to the next one. Actually, let me take a quick picture for Instagram. Send it back through to the. Cool. Alright. Wasting no time. So let's go ahead and turn off that one. Lower this guy. But yeah, so like I was saying earlier, because I kind of want to keep them with like a rotten or like decayed vibe. As they kind of go, I want them to get a little, like every, like evolution or step up, I want them to get a little more, like, sinister and, like, worse off. So we're gonna go back a little bit. And we can even look up, like, gross fungus. No, not feet, though. What's the decay? This good stuff that kind of has like a rotten look. Yeah, kind of like this, or like this. Turn this down a little bit lower so that's not distracting. one thing I want to like keep in mind too, that between Ivysaur and Bulbasaur, there's not like a ton of difference. A lot of it comes down to like the big like plant or bulb that's on their back. So I tried when I was like sketching them out last night. I was trying to make sure that their um, their designs, at least when I put them together, were a bit um, like different enough to not look like just like the same thing. So like I definitely made sure that the back is going to look different, but also that their head shape and their body is a little more differentiated in how they normally are in the like original designs, I guess. Yeah, exactly. I try to make it a little more pronounced this time around, have the edges be a little bit sharper. Like if I pull up Bulbasaur, like Bulbasaur is definitely like a little more, he's like wider and not as many hard edges. And I try to give Venusaur some more hard edges, at least in the sketch. So I'm trying to follow through with that on the line work I'm trying to put in there now. But also to like, make him a little more like angry and sinister like I was talking about before. I think the two fangs kind of help that out too. But what I might do to kind of throw it for a little bit is to give him like two smaller fangs on the one side and then a bigger one, just to keep it a little off balance. And then I have most of his back kind of in shadow here. So a lot of it's going to come down to how like well I'm able to silhouette him all together. And then we're going to try and follow some of these shapes and ideas from the rotted grapes here to kind of inform how I want some of this back piece to look, so that the parts that are visible like look, at least have traits that are what I'm aiming for. And like one of the more defining things for Ivysaur is Ivysaur. because he has like the actual flower, like with the big leaves on the back. So what I tried doing is having these like leaves that kind of hang off the side, because they're split like droopy and dead and dying. So even though maybe the shadow will make a ton of sense, like lighting wise, I'll still light some of it up just a tad. But a lot of the detail, at least for Ivysaur, is going to come down to, like I said, the silhouette that I put together. So that's why I want to use some of this reference to the fullest that I can. Some of these shapes, a lot of what it is just like the shapes that you put into it, not even so much the way that you end up rendering it to make it look that way, but it's the shapes that you pull out of the reference that really make it like as believable, or just like take it that extra step. So I'm trying to steal some of the shapes from these images. Oh my god. No, Hunter, it might just be you and me all night, buddy. Having a much slower trickle through as compared to when we were on here Monday. That happens, it's fine. Just means it'll be that much more chill. What I might try doing is also seeing if there's not more of an audience on Twitch for something as well, because with YouTube there's not a whole lot of ways to like stumble onto somebody unless you're like looking for them. But on Twitch there's more of an opportunity for you to be like seen and have someone stumble in even for like a minute or two before ducking back out. But YouTube doesn't really work that way. You have to like be looking for that person's page, or already subscribed, or whatever the case is. So anybody that's going to show up is already a part of the community. I'm gonna be able to get away with just not having it. I don't think this looks as good as I thought it would. I might be able to get away with just not having it in there. Yeah, I didn't like that, like, hanging bit. All good here for it all. I appreciate it. Yeah, we're definitely going at a more chill clip tonight. I'm not talking my throat dry, so that's good too. But I'll probably end up putting a poll on the Instagram and see if there's not more interest in me having the streams over on Twitch, because for me it's a push of a button to change it over to Twitch. It's really not that difficult to change it all over. I'm just not as familiar with Twitch. I know YouTube. I use YouTube all the time, but I don't hang out on Twitch that often. So I'm kind of trying to stick with what I know, but I might have to just say fuck it and do what's gonna have some more eyes, because YouTube probably might not be the place to do that. And it's all good. It's a learning process. Try and chalk it up to taking in new information. And then let's look at where is the we can probably get rid of this outline in the back soon. And we can make the tendrils. One of the ideas that I was having, I don't think I did it for the Venusaur sketch that I have, but the idea that I was thinking is maybe making the tendrils, like the vines that come out, make them a little more like spiky, like little razors almost on the end of them, like more like tendrils, tentacles. And we'll have to come in and fix this arch. Yeah, make it more menacing. Yeah, exactly. So each time it kind of gets a little progressively like crazier, and then I'll see, because I didn't add these so much to the to Venusaur, the final one that we're gonna do. So we'll see if we can't find a way. I flashed it really quick earlier, but I'm kind of holding off until we get to them to show you. I really like the designs, the sketches that I've put together for the final evolutionaries of each guy so far. You know, and then when we get to the end of um, Venusaur, if we don't really have too many other people like stop by, we'll probably end up calling it there for the night, and I'll kind of figure out what I can do to have it be a little more lively. But I want to start doing these more just because I enjoy them. I like being like here and present, and that was one of the more early ideas for the adventure stuff, is I wanted to do them as like live streams. I wanted to illustrate the adventure almost live, and take time to draw them, and then once I would get a fair amount of it drawn or enough of it sketched out in a way that I was happy with, like offer up the next option or suggestion and kind of take it from there. And I'd still like to do that. It would be a much larger undertaking to swap into doing something that was more like that. But like with all things, if there's enough interest, and there's a lot of that it comes down to like funding too, because I don't want, if I did something like that, I'd want it to look and feel professional. And like I spend a reasonable amount of time putting together the setup that I'm using right now. But like the webcam is like old. I don't even know when or where I grabbed it. My computer is decently fine, but I don't like to do things like super like halfway. Like if I'm going to do them, I want to really, really do them in terms of the production value. So like eventually, like if the streams pick up a little more steam, I'd like to be able to grab a better microphone and that kind of stuff. All things in time, though. One of the things that I've like learned the longer that I'm doing this stuff online is a lot of that stuff doesn't really matter. Like it's not gonna ruin or destroy like the project if it's not like a $500 like microphone and camera and setup and rig, and you know that stuff can help, and like it's important once you get to a certain point, but for a long time like you can get away with using like garbage, so long as what you're putting out isn't garbage. And there's ways to polish up like technological turds. I all the voiceover stuff that I do for the project, which isn't that often, but when I do them, it's just like my iPhone, and I just like clean it up in Audacity a little bit, just like put a couple filters and like noise reduction, and then I ship it, and that's it. Could it sound better if I used a better microphone? Well, yeah, but for my means and the time that I have to put into it, it's um, not the worst thing in the world. So if I look back, I don't want to make sure that they have similar like markings and like scale or skin patterns. This is one of the things I'm gonna do with the back foot here, is something that I'm gonna want to mess with for a while, but I'm gonna force myself to almost just be done with it, so I don't spend half an hour like fiddling with every pixel of this foot. I apologize for not just talking my way through it. I'm just relaxing and putting the lines in. It's just you and me here. If you want to know anything specific about like the project, or if you have any questions, you let me know. I'll take that and I'll run with it for a little while. I've got plenty of rambling in me, but I need to be set off, set off on a rambling spree to get there. All right, Ivysaur went pretty quick. Any insights for Dustmorn? Dustmorn's cool. So like the way that I want to do that second adventure with you guys, with just the patrons, um, like I've said it a couple of times, and I try to keep reiterating it, like in the descriptions and in that brief, like how to play thing that I put together. Um, that I really want like you guys to have free reign. Like I have ideas and I know, um, like I have like a specific story, I guess, in mind that I know what I'm trying to like accomplish in showing. Um, but then a lot of it, I'm kind of like, well, if they decide to do, if I'm gonna let you guys dictate where you go and what you do, like I'm gonna kind of base the story around that as well. So as with Aaron, I kind of have two options that I like very much know like what either outcome will be, and I can think about like okay, if I give them these options, here are a couple of ideas and directions the story can kind of go from there. But with what I'm doing um, with you guys, with the patrons rather, um, that isn't there. Like I don't know what you guys are gonna decide after we get. So like we're going to the mausoleum. I don't know what you guys are gonna do once we get in there. Right? I can set up stuff and I can draw whatever, but I don't. What you choose to interact with and like what you do with it. It's pretty wide open. Obviously, there will be some things that you either can or can't do based on the limitations of the character that you guys have to like explore or ask about. Um, but like beyond that, like insights for it, like I'm excited. I like working on it. I like being able to dedicate a little bit more time to it, with like animating and making it like just feel a little more like unique. I like having it be separate from like Aaron's stuff, like in terms of like tone and like visually, like it's very different. Like Aaron's very medieval and like plains. Right now we're out like in the middle of like the desert, and we're gonna deal with the claw and that kind of stuff. So that's changing up a bit too, which is nice for me to have a little bit of a like a stylistic change up in terms of like what I'm having to draw each week. Um, see if I can't just copy this over and just use it here too. but I don't want to give away like any story beats or any of the ideas for like what's coming, just because that'll be for you guys to figure out, like if and when y'all get there, or you ask like the right questions or whatever the case may be. One of the goals that we have in on the Patreon right now. Sorry, my nose is really itchy. One of the goals that I have on the Patreon right now, I think it's at 50 patrons. We're at like 31 or 32 right now. At 50, I'd like to be able to start incorporating like bonus posts for Dustmorn, like I do for like the Dire Quest for the main account, and like giving like weekly puzzles and like a lot of the extra stuff that we do for Dire Quest. Whereas Dustmorn's account, at least until we reach like a milestone on Patreon that I can like justify it with, is going to be pretty strictly just the adventure. But with enough like funding, enough like financial help on Patreon, like I can dedicate more time to making all of the Patreon exclusive stuff that much cooler. But beyond that, there's not a lot that's like done or finalized for it. I'm excited to be working on it. I feel like the people that are like in there are excited to be like a part of it, which is cool. If I guess like one of the things that I want to encourage more is like discussion and like back and forth in the comments in terms of like where we go. At least right now there hasn't been like that many decisions, so there hasn't been a lot of room for like debate or disagreement. But I'd like to also find ways, which is something that I have to work on myself, is finding ways to offer paths and decisions that aren't really like left or right or yes or no, and being able to offer you guys like a really open environment with like a single image or two, and a lot of that is going to be on you and whoever else is participating to take in whatever is in that image and play with it like as if you were at the table, and like ask questions and try and interact with X, Y, and Z like we do with the gravestones. I thought it was cool that so many people wanted to read the gravestones, because then I could do like a whole separate post that was just staring at the gravestones and like what can or can't be gleaned from those, and yeah. And then of course like I've changed kind of like my artistic direction, I guess, a little bit, or like the general like look is definitely it's always been kind of the same, but it's definitely altered and shifted as we've kind of gone along. And right now it's in a place, and it's a place that I kind of want to keep it, where everything is really simple, at least to put together. Not necessarily it's always simple to draw, but it's always relatively simple to put together, in the sense that as long as I get the line work done, after that all I have to do is like put the color on, so I can spend more time per post making sure that I have the line work that I like, and I can cram like more details, and it just makes everything easier. It also makes things go a little bit faster, which is why I decided that I wanted to do like a second adventure. It's because if I have the time, if I work in such a way that it allows me to have the time to work on 2 adventures and not spend a bajillion hours illustrating them. I spend a lot of time working on the project each week, and so over the past 2 years, it'll be the 2-year mark in February. I've had to find more and more ways to make the workflow more efficient, and even though I really like the more rendered look that the project used to have, where it was like everything was highlighted and everything was shaded and everything had a color. Um, the amount of work that I actually do on the project, there's no feasible way for me to do both. I can't do that much work on the project and have every piece be as rendered. But if I make sure that if I do it in a way that they're all the same and have like more punchy, bold art direction, I can do more artwork, um, and just make sure that the artwork that I do in this style compensates for the fact that I'm not um, rendering everything to the fullest ability that I once did. There we go. Come in and do a couple more little details. I think Ivysaur is almost done. Almost got him under the hour mark. And then, so back to Dustmorn, that's gonna end probably around the same time that Aaron's adventure ends. I'd like for that to be sometime in May, but I have no idea. That's kind of where I'd like for it to go. I'm kind of leading Aaron's story closer to a close. Obviously, Dustmorn just started, but it will be a bit of a shorter adventure. It's a more contained story that I'm trying to get across, as opposed to where Aaron is just like this big adventure. With Dustmorn, I'm very much trying to tell like a story and like a contained snippet of like lore and information and everything that's going to kind of lead into the next adventure, the next big one on Dire Quest, and that'll have Dustmorn kind of shift into something different. So once the Dustmorn story is over, I'll kind of like transition that account into it'll still be a second Patreon exclusive account, but it'll be used for something different. Like it may not be a second adventure, but it'll be like I haven't decided yet. I haven't decided what I'll do with it. But it'll still be like a dedicated Patreon exclusive like content, additional story type thing. Um, a lot of stuff has been written and like planned out for the next adventure already. So I have a couple of ideas as to what we could do with that second account. But rest assured that it'll still be there. It's not going anywhere. What I may end up doing as well for these Pokemon is it might be that like I feel like done with them like on stream, and then I'll give it a day or two and like come back to them like, oh, I can fix this or that. It's a different vibe, like drawing and doing like the artwork for this kind of stuff on stream, because they have to like I'm hyper aware that like someone is watching or is even passively just hanging out. Um, and that kind of affects the way that I work. Not necessarily the way that I draw, but like my leniency, I guess, with which that I go into like drawing it. Because if there's someone watching, I don't want to spend 2 hours on like the smallest part of the image. I'd rather just keep it moving and just keep going. But again, I may end up coming back to that later on and like not appreciating that I did that to myself. What do you think? What do you think about Dustmorn? I enjoy it, and I think other people that are on that account are enjoying having like a new like Dire Quest kind of adventure thing, but it's definitely packaged differently. It's not the same as like what Aaron's doing, and at least I hope that it comes across as like different enough to be like exciting and new. So what do you think? What are your thoughts? Where do you think it's gonna go? So far, you like the style? Cool, cool, good. I personally like having the um like it's something minor and not like important about like the storytelling at all, but I like having like two separate, something that I just did like over the past month is separate them. Like Dire Quest is like the red account and Dustmorn is the yellow account. That's something that I want to kind of continue into the future to like with um differentiating different aspects of the project in that way. um you like learning about the world and setting exactly, and it's the more that we do, the more you guys are going to learn about like where we are, when we are, um, like what's happening, what happened, and that's kind of like the point in the way that I'm structuring it, and that the person that we're, it's kind of like a tropey thing to have them have like amnesia and not really remember, but in the for the purpose of putting you guys in a space where you don't know where you are, um, it it'll let me illuminate like different things about like the world building and lore that I kind of want to get to that will transition us into um, our third adventure. Maybe we're a lost soul looking for a way back. We're going to the final place. Well, I guess we'll find out. I guess we will find out one way or the other. I like that it's like smaller in terms of like the audience. I like having um like a bunch of people comment and vote on the Dire Quest stuff. I really, really do. Um, but what I think is cool is that I'm able, because it's such a smaller group of people that are playing that adventure, I can let you guys like dictate and talk in the comments as opposed to like trying to do that with like there's about 300 to 400 people that consistently like the posts for Aaron and stuff, and then another 150 or so that actually comment every week. So rather than having all 150 people like comment like big like paragraphs or whatever the case is, it's way easier just to say A or B and have them comment if they want to from there. But I like having that like I don't know, amount of hands-onness like with you guys, and um, I think I'm gonna probably try to be a little bit more um, like talk to you guys more in the comments as we get like further into it and like reveal and see more stuff. Right, and then I'd call Ivysaur done just under the hour mark. Right, so that's probably a good gauge. A good gauge would be like an hour per, as long as I have the outlines done ahead of time. Cool. And then we're going into finally Venusaur. So I'm happy with him. His outline is a little less complex than I remember, so we'll go through and we'll fix that a little bit. So that he's a little less like hard-edged geometric and has a little bit more going on. I really like his big old mouth. Vicious, yes. I'm I'm actually really like proud of the way his mouth is. It looks like it's really like menacing and like dark. And then before we go, like what we'll do tonight is we'll probably just do Venusaur here because that'll take us to the 3 hour mark. But before we go, I'll show you some of the other um, like sketches that we have that we'll do like in the coming weeks or so. Dripping with poison and decay. Yeah, exactly. I'm debating because maybe I might leave it for just Venusaur because I don't think I want to add it to the other two. But I think it's a really cool touch. And then something that we were talking about on the our stream Monday. I think it was Monday. No, Tuesday. I don't know. Earlier, earlier this week. Um, you know, when I want to make them look cool, you just add spikes. So Venusaur has a couple of extra spiked. I guess we can call them thorns, so it's a little more on theme for their for Venusaur being like a big old plant boy. So that'll kind of add to him being spooky. And if anything, I can probably make these, because he's a little bit more heavy-footed, he doesn't really need these huge claws. But so if I make him a little more stunted, be a little more realistic. And also turn down this outline a little bit more. Oh, look at that. We made it to the end of all that. Alright, let's see what else. Yeah, whenever I'm not really terribly sure where to take a design next. I'll just throw some spikes on it, and that'll clear up any confusion for myself and make them a little bit scarier. And then I kind of did myself a favor again by putting a lot of his legs in the shadow, because I am awful with like feet and claws and stuff like that. So give myself an easy out by hiding a bunch of it. Which isn't really a good habit. I guess I should just probably learn how to draw some of this stuff, but that'll be for another day. Future me can learn how to draw better. For today, I'm just having a good time. And then I'm going to want to find some good reference for this top, like big, like mushroom bit too. So I'll have to go digging for that. Okay. What's that big? It's like a slime. What's that really big smelly mushroom? Flesh. Ew. It's gross. What are those really, really big mushrooms? Whatever. Yeah, oh, is it a flower? Death smelling plant? That's not what I was talking about, but we can work with it. This thing. What the hell is this thing? There we go. Look how big these things are. Okay, we're going to use that for a little bit of reference. Yeah, that. I don't know. The giant Rafflesia. I'm sure they have like a nickname that I'm just not aware of. Say it smells like dead bodies? Ooh. No, thank you. I mean, it looks cool, but it can, they can stay over there. I don't think you can find them in the US. I think they're, have to do a bit of traveling to find them. Yeah, and then just using that shape or that even just like the general layout, I think has added a lot to the top piece that wasn't there before. It's kind of like sectioning it off a little bit. I don't know, dude. Like other places have some really crazy like wildlife that I'm just not interested in. It's cool. I'll look at it on my computer screen and on my TV, but um, no, it can stay elsewhere. To be fair, I don't think too many people are living like nearby, but no. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, absolutely. I could probably go ahead and turn off the. There we go. So you go to fill this in, is it gonna break? No. Cool. I think I like him better with the tongue in there. Gives it a little bit more believability. It sounds like a big gaping maw. Right now I'm just kind of going through and adding the little details to the top shroom flower bit. And because so much of them is so simple, the flower up top is really what I need to spend like my time on. And so I am, but I'm also going to add in those like tentacles, like the spiked, barbed like bits, and make them a little more wild on him than they were on Ivysaur. And just kind of continue that pattern of like escalating the look, the feel. And then once we get all of his little kind of scales and his marks in, all we'll have left is the barbed bits up top, and then we can go ahead and we'll call it a night. Where are we at? Oh, we still got a little while. And if we finish them early, we finish them early. I'm trying to think of how I'm gonna want to like roll them out in terms of posting them to like Instagram and all that fun stuff. Because like I don't want the profile to become like a Pokemon art profile. That's not the goal. The goal is to like have a fun exercise and changing up my style a little bit and what have you. So I think I might do them like in posts of 3 or find a way of like condensing them all down. And then like the more that I post them, the more interest there might be in coming to hang out for the streams and that kind of stuff. So there is like an incentive to, you know, to share them. Give people like a proof of concept, basically. Yeah. Well, what I was thinking about, like when I originally wanted to do them like 9 to 10 in a post. Um, I still want to do something like that, but I feel like if I do post them like in smaller batches, like earlier on, I'll be able to, um, well, one, it'll spread out the interaction a little bit. Like if I put them all into one post, it'll all be like consolidated onto one thing. But if I post them more, um, if I post more regularly, like if I put them in groups of 3, I get the engagement of 3 posts instead of the engagement on 1 post. Um, so like I feel like maybe later on, as the numbers go, I can kind of do them in batches of like 10. But I think maybe to start, I might want to start off by doing them like in 3s, or if like it's a pair of Pokemon, or just like a one-off. That way later on, when like, because I don't want to overload the page with these. That's not the goal. What I can also do is just post them until I have 10, like post them in groups of 3 or 2, and then when I have like 8 to 10 of them in a batch, I can just archive the old posts and bundle them all together into a new one. That way it keeps the profile clean, and it gives me like additional posts to kind of eat up some of that time. We'll see. I'll play around with it. There's no harm in posting them and seeing what happens. Can entice people to want more. Yeah, and that's the goal. The goal is to have people look at them and be like, oh, I'd want to see more of those. But then with that being said, I feel like if I were to post them in like smaller batches, at least initially, I can garner that attention or that interest earlier on. And the reason I say a lot of that is because Instagram, like, puts a lot of value on, or puts value in the sense that it'll boost my post like in the algorithm more. It'll show more people when I post more frequently. So like when my posting every once in a while, like I slow down in terms of how often I post. And when I do that, like the engagement goes down. The number of people that are seeing it kind of drops. But if I have like a source of content, like the Pokemon that I want to kind of do, um, it'll give me like another post type. That's not the puzzles or the adventure right now to like feed the algorithm with content. Excited to see how people. Yeah, me too. Uh, the crab people are like, we've talked about them for like a long time in the Discord, and there's I don't know if you like read through it all or looked through it, but one of the dire chests for October um was on them, and like there was a lot of writing about like their world and their culture and stuff, and there's different like parts of the claw. So like a lot of what was in the dire chest, we might not see too much of those people, but we're definitely going to like see a lot of that influence, and I'm very excited to kind of see what everyone does with the people of the claw. We'll probably spend like a handful of decisions there. Probably the month of January and maybe some of February. Not terribly too long because I want to keep the adventure going. I want us to stay on our feet and to keep moving so we can kind of see Aaron's adventure through. I don't want to go on over 2 years or over a year, I guess, that we're with Aaron. I kind of want him to have his time in the sun and be done. Although it does kind of feel like his adventure just started, which is weird because like I said, it's been a long time that we've been with him, and I think a lot of what that is when we had Worm with the first adventure. his adventure moved a lot faster, so it felt like we were doing a lot more. Um, but like I purposely made Aaron's adventure move much slower, just so we can kind of enjoy everything a little bit more and be a little more nitpicky about like the decisions we make. But I want to try and speed it up just a little bit as we come into this latter half of his adventure now. Just so we're not like, like just like I said, just not dealing with Aaron for the next year and a half. Come in and clean up his outline. We're almost done with them. We'll be done a little bit earlier than I had anticipated, but that's okay. Let's see if I can't throw the outline that I want to. Cool. And we'll go in and fix some of the bits that we didn't want to be colored. And now we can see that his feet are a little more janky than I want them to be. Now I'm just gonna throw in some final touches, but I'm done. First three are complete. Can clean his eyes up a little bit too. Yeah, woohoo! I'm gonna move him over a tiny bit so he's not on top of the. Let's move him down. And then let's pull up the grass. You just want to grab the little bit. There we go. Yeah, thank you, thank you. I appreciate you sticking around, man. It was just you and me. Just you and me hanging out all night, but I appreciate that. We got the first 3 done, and I'm super proud of them, honestly. Yeah, and then what's always a good sign is when I flip back through them and I'm still happy with them. I'm still happy with what I put down. Yeah, and there's definitely you can definitely see like an escalation, which I think is cool. Venusaur is still my favorite though. He's just so big and bulky. It looks good. And then what I'll do, maybe if I do the group them, duplicate them. And find a way to put them all into one image. There may not be a simple way of organizing them all in the one image together. Just because they're so wide. Like Bulbasaur, or Venusaur is pretty wide. I'll work that out another time. I don't think I'll do that on stream. I'll find a better layout for them though. Alright, dude. I'm gonna go ahead and head off. I appreciate you hanging out and sticking around. I had a really good time working on them. Thank you for chilling with me for a little while. You'll know when the next stream is going to be. I'll probably set up something like Monday, Thursday, or Tuesday, Thursdays. I'm not really sure when the last one was. I forget at this point. Thank you for coming to hang out, and I'll see you sometime soon. I'm making a post tomorrow for the hidden objects, and then the video with that. I'll be sending a link out as well for everybody. Later, until I talk to you again. Thanks for sticking around, dude.